বৰঠাকুৰ IS একাডেমি প্ৰস্তুতি আৰু অধ্যয়নৰ নিৰ্ভৰযোগ্য ঠিকনা।
Hello everyone, welcome to the Hindu analysis for 31st May 2021. Let us begin with the first article today. Number of new cases across India dips further to 1.5 lakhs. Though as of Saturday, only 16,000 fewer tests were conducted than what were being conducted earlier in the last week. But in a sense of good news, India has recorded only 1.5 lakh new COVID-19 cases. But the bad news part of it is the death rate is still hovering around 3,000 cases. So it's a bit of good news and bad news because the number of positive cases had indeed reduced. So we are seeing a flatlining or a reduction of the second wave of COVID-19 in India. But the average death rates, that is the 7-day rolling average of new deaths, is still over 3,000 deaths. But India's daily average positivity rate, that is positive cases identified for every 100 tests, continues to decline. It was reported on May 29 that our positivity rate was anywhere between 9 to 9.4% compared to recorded 13.4% a week earlier. As of the distribution of vaccine is concerned, around 30 lakh vaccine doses were administered in the country in the last 24 hours alone. And on Sunday particularly, close to 27,000 doses or less were recorded in the previous hour. So our daily vaccination rate seems to be anywhere between 29 lakh to 30 lakh doses administered daily. We are seeing a decline in positivity rates. We are still seeing a constant in number of deaths. We are seeing a reduction in number of doses being administered due to lack of availability of vaccine doses. Currently the vaccine situation is a little bit grim. Our average monthly production of vaccines is pretty low. So in the next few articles we'll be discussing about what is the statistics in regards to what is our production capacity as of now. But for now the cases are reducing. We are conducting far fewer tests. There is an indeed decrease in number of tests that are being conducted, particularly 16,000 fewer tests conducted on Saturday particularly. But our positivity rate is declining. Ours 1 week earlier it was 13.4%. Right now it is only 9.4%. We are administering anywhere between 28 to 30 lakh vaccines per day, which is a good sign, but it is also seeing a decline due to lack of availability of vaccine doses. Moving on to the next article. India has sent a jet to fly back Choksi. So Mehul Choksi is accused in the Punjab National Bank for fraud of a tune of around 13,000 crores. Moving on to the next article. India has sent jet to fly back Choksi. So Mehul Choksi, who is the prime accused in the Punjab National Bank fraud case, which he is wanted for cheating Punjab National Bank out of tune of 13,578 crores. He fled India before a arrest warrant was issued his name, and he was arrested and brought to justice. But he fled India and took up residence in Antigua and Barbuda and claimed asylum and got citizenship in that Caribbean island nation. Now, since he was found out that he was living there, Indian government has made every step and taken every action possible to bring him back. And recently he got into headlines again because he ran away from Antigua to Dominica in a private jet. But now Indian government is making every possible action to bring him back to India and try him for his financial fraud cases. Even the Antiguan Prime Minister, who was Gaston Brown, was also saying that India is going all out to ensure that Mr. Choksi, who is wanted for the 13,578 crore Punjab National fraud case, is deported back and has indicated that Indian officials were in Dominica's capital Roseau to escort him back on a Qatar Airways jet that is now parked in Douglas Charles Airport nearby, meaning India has hired a private jet from Qatar Airways and they had stationed it in Dominica and has started proceedings to extradite him from Antiguan government to Dominica so that they can extradite him from there to back to India so that they can try him for his financial fraud. So India has been conducting extensive back channel negotiations with both the governments of Dominica and Antigua to ensure that they help Indian government in deporting the Choksi from their country to our country. First, it was claimed that he had gotten the citizenship of Antigua and Barbuda, but now the government has come out and said that they haven't even issued him the citizenship status, and yet he is still a citizen of India. If you remember correctly, a few days back when he ran away from Antigua to Dominica, Indian officials were sent with court papers from India to Dominica. So now, in a move that is going to help banks recover at least some percent of money from these fugitives and set an example in future cases where Indian government is extensively trying to bring all these financial fraudsters back to India, in the case of Nirav Modi, in case of Vijay Mallya, now Mehul Choksi. If all these three people are extradited from UK and Antigua, it will set an example that at least the government is trying to bring these people to justice. As far as the Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya cases are concerned, the UK government has clearly stated the matter is up to the hands of the courts. In the case of Nirav Modi, the court has given a clear judgment that he can be extradited, but there is some sort of an roadblock in the process which the government of India is not divulging, and even the UK government is pretty much silent about. But at the end of the day, for the extradition of both Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya from UK, things are pretty much clear, and I think they will be extradited in the next few coming months. And with the case of Choksi, he is going to be extradited in the next coming few days if everything goes according to the agreement that Indian government seems to have reached with the governments of Dominica and Antigua. Now moving on, a reform wave Lakshadweep could do without. So this article particularly talks about the recent reforms that the new administrator or the in-charge administrator of Lakshadweep, Mr. Patil, has brought in, particularly to remind you these slew of draft legislations have one, the Lakshadweep Animal Preservation Regulation 2021, which bans transportation, sale, consumption of beef, and the prevention of antisocial activities regulation PASA bill, that is the Gunda Act. The third, the Lakshadweep Panchayat Regulation 2021, which bars any citizen who has more than 2 children to participate or contest in local body elections, and the Lakshadweep Development Regulation Authority Regulation of 2021, which gives immense power to the Development Authority of Lakshadweep to carry out demolitions or constructions without much review process in the order. Now, we discussed in the earlier class that there has been a lot of criticism into these bills because of the demographics and the local ecological imbalances that these bills are accused of bringing into Lakshadweep. The author here makes two valid points. One, that there is a fragile ecology balance that has to be maintained in Lakshadweep because it is an eco-sensitive zone. When particularly with the bringing in of the Lakshadweep Development Authority regulation legislation, it is going to create certain conflict of interest in terms of ensuring or protecting whatever the ecological ecosystem that exists in Lakshadweep in lieu of having greater development and greater prosperity for these groups of islands. Now that is what this author talks about here. But at the end of the day, you have to look at on the both sides of the matter, what is the opposition of these regulations are bringing in, and what are the advantages or the disadvantages these bills are poised to bring to the islands of Lakshadweep. Now, as far as the opposition is concerned to these regulations, yes, there is a considerable opposition to these particular bills, particularly in the case of the Panchayat regulation, which bars any person to participate in local elections if he has more than 2 children. And the most contentious of all legislations is the Lakshadweep Animal Preservation Regulation of 2021. So, as far as these regulations are concerned, yes, there is a lot of pushback from certain sections of the society, and the particular pushback comes to the ecological aspect is the IDA framework, which gives immense power to the development authority that doesn't need any more clearances to take up large scale constructions in these island nations. And the fact that the sale of liquor out of one particular island is also bringing a lot of criticism from various factors of the society. Now the problem comes when Mr. Patel had compared Lakshadweep to the development model of Maldives, where the government is proposing, or the administrator is proposing proposing a slew of development projects which projects Lakshadweep as an similar to a holiday destination or a tourism destination as Maldives, and this is again bringing a lot of pushback to the administrator and his legislations as well. So as of now, the central government hasn't made any particular statement either for or against the legislation that are being brought in by the administrator. Various political leaders, including the Chief Minister of Kerala, has written to the President of India to recall the administrator for his actions here, but the central government hasn't made any decision or statement regarding this new reform wave that is being projected in Lakshadweep. Moving on to the next article, evidence of how little the judiciary has learned. Particularly, this article talks about the Tarun Tejpal case judgment that the court of Goa has passed in recently, where the court made certain statements or made certain observations which are being seen as going in the wrong way for protection of workplace safety of women. Now, what is this case about? This case is particularly about Tarun Tejpal, an editor of a certain newspaper who was accused of sexual molestation or sexual assault on one of his employees. Now, this case has been going on for long. Recently, the Goan court came out with a judgment which projected the victim as the perpetrator and the perpetrator as the victim of the crime, vice versa, contrary to what the evidence states. As far as the government of Goa is concerned, they are going to file a rejoinder plea in the High Court against the judgment passed by the Additional Sessions Judge, which acquitted the former editor of the news magazine of charges of rape of an employee. I think it was in the year 2013 that he was accused. And when the allegations came forth, he was tried under sections which were introduced after the Nirbhaya case. And the person who accused him of sexual molestation or sexual assault was also given certain protections, because there was the court observed during that time, the court and the government observed that there was a certain threat to the victim as well. Now, it has become in the judgment, the Sessions Court judgment particularly was a little bit of an contradictory to what the norms say, because the judgment kind of transforms the accused into the victim and the young woman who became the victim as an accused, as I said earlier. So it kind of brought in a lot of pushback, where society as a whole, in terms of behavior of people and behavior of the judiciary system and every aspect of society, is moving towards more transparent place and ensure increase workplace safety of women. This judgment comes as a blow to what we were trying for the past few years. So we have to wait. The government of Goa has filed a plea in front of the High Court, As the matter is still under consideration, we have to wait how the High Court observes or interprets the session's judgment. Moving on, SC to resume COVID-19 hearings. So, during the peak of the second wave of COVID-19, a special bench of Supreme Court was constituted, and it was headed by D.Y. Chandrachud and other justices, which had to take a hiatus because the lead judge of the bench contracted coronavirus and had to take a leave of absence. Now, because of this, the hearings were interrupted, and the bench, which was also comprising of Justice L. Nageshwar Rao and Ravindra Bhatt, and before taking the hiatus, constituted a national task force to scientifically study and recommend a foolproof mechanism for allocation of oxygen to the states. When the court had constituted a 12-member special team to streamline the effective and transparent allocation of the liquid medical oxygen, there was a lot of pushback from the government of India, stating that the court cannot get into the functionary of the executive. And rightly so, many law experts and other civil society groups have observed that whatever the court is trying to do here constitutes as judicial activism, where they are trying to dictate the policy of the elected executive, and the court cannot do so. But that is a perception of opinion, but we are not going into that. But at the end of the day, as I said earlier, the lead judge of the special bench, had to take a hiatus because D.Y. Chandrachud caught the virus. Now they are going to reconvene and resume COVID-19 hearings, meaning they are going to consider the special team again, the 12-member team that was constituted by the court again, and they are going to take few other petitions that were filed in regards to COVID-19 response from various state governments and the central governments and certain other private NGOs. Moving to the concept of or the aspect of the TRIPS, that is the agreement on trade related aspects of intellectual property and rights, India in itself is proposing a waiver of TRIPS at World Trade Organization. And this bench is considering a similar kind of waiver or intellectual property patent waiver in India, so that production vaccine can increase multiple fold by way of taking away the patent rights of both Bharat Biotech's Covaxin and any other vaccine that Indian manufacturers are coming up with. Moving on to the next article, only a global effort can tame COVID-19. So India has been witnessing, as you can see, an unprecedented surge in COVID-19 cases, but we are seeing a reduction or a flatlining of the curve in second wave of COVID-19. Now come to the point of vaccine nationalism. Now, the only way that everybody understands at this point of time to come out of this COVID-19 pandemic now or in the future is through way of aggressive vaccination. One of the challenges that India faced during the first wave of COVID was the laxity of population or the reluctancy of the population to get vaccinated. One thing that changed during the second wave of COVID-19 is people realizing the importance of vaccination and showing enthusiasm and willingness to get vaccinated, despite we are seeing certain percentage of hesitancy in rural areas, in tribal areas and certain parts of urban areas also. But majority of the population understands the importance and the need for the vaccination and are willing to get vaccinated if and when they are available. Now the problem lies to the availability of vaccination. Now we know that there is a lack of availability of vaccination due to production challenges in India. Now we need to populate at least 60% of the vaccinate 60% of the population by the end of year to achieve some sort or some resemblance of herd immunity in order to restore our normal way of life, so that our economy can recover and people can get on with their jobs. Now the hindrance lies with the fact that our vaccination production capacity is still low. We are trying to import vaccines such as Sputnik, Pfizer, Moderna and other vaccines if and when these companies are willing to export vaccines from their respective countries to India. As far as the Sputnik is concerned, we have already cleared the import of Sputnik 5 from Russia. The company that is manufacturing Sputnik 5 in Hyderabad has already made an experimental batch to test their production capacities if and when it gets all the necessary clearances from the government of India, which seems to be very soon. Sputnik 5 also can be Sputnik 5 manufacture can begin in India with immediate effect. We are already in the process of importing anywhere between 30 to 50 million doses of Sputnik 5, which will add to the capacity that we are intending to manufacture in the next 2 months, which hovers around anywhere between 125 to 150 million doses of both the vaccines that we have in our arsenal to fight COVID-19 right now. Our monthly manufacturing capacity of COVID-19 vaccines, both Covishield and Covaxin, is pretty low. Particularly in the case of Covaxin, we recently came to know about the fact that it takes 120 days or 4 months for one batch of Covaxin to be manufactured and distributed. That is sure to throw some sort of a wrench in our plans to vaccinate at least 60% of the population by the end of the year. But the government has ensured that Bharat Biotech come into an agreement with 4 other manufacturers of vaccine to increase their capacity twofold. That is also a positive thing. But those things do take time for these companies to modify their manufacturing facilities, to resource all the necessary raw materials that are needed, and to begin production, because before the production begins they have to conduct a test batch production that goes again to what is being done with Sputnik 5, which has to go to the testing facilities and get tested and get approval from the government of India. Then they can ramp up their manufacturing capacities. Now there are a lot of logistical issues that are involved in the manufacturing of vaccines in India. But at the end of the day, both Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech are enhancing their production capacities, and they intend to supply 150 million doses per month in the next few months alone. And as I said earlier, Russia is also helping India in exporting Sputnik vaccines in tune of millions that India wants to export, in addition to what we intend to manufacture in India. Now, as far as the negotiations between Pfizer, Moderna and other Johnson & Johnson vaccines, they are still in negotiation stages, and we don't have anything in concrete as of yet to showcase. Now, our current production capacity in India particularly stands around, for both Covishield and Covaxin, is 70 million doses per month. Now, the government has allocated 45 billion rupees as an advance payment to both Serum Institute and Bharat Biotech. As I said earlier, they promised to increase their vaccine capacity from 70 million monthly to 160 or 150 million monthly. Now, India is known as the pharmacy of the world. Now, the challenges are twofold. We have an extensive ability and infrastructure to manufacture large quantities of vaccine. The problem boils down to availability of patent rights to manufacture the said vaccine and the access to raw materials to those said vaccines. Whatever the Western vaccines that we are talking about, particularly in the case of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, these vaccines are based on a technology called mRNA technology. These mRNA technology patent rights are owned by private pharmaceutical companies of the Western world. TRIPS agreement comes in the way of share of these mRNA technology to developing nations, because when the TRIPS agreement is in force, India or other developing nations cannot get access to these vaccines until and unless the companies that own this mRNA technology are willing to share the formula or the procedure to these countries. which they are against, because they have invested some thousands and crores of millions of dollars into developing this mRNA technology for the past few decades. Now, when the time is right, they want to monetize it and earn money out of it, not give it for free. So when Australia and India moved the TRIPS waiver proposal at the World Trade Organization, in the first go itself, most of the Western countries opposed whatever the proposal that India and other developing nations had made. After a few months, after realizing initial pushback, America came around, and instead of supporting the proposal that South Africa and India made, they came out with their own proposal as a way of counter proposing what India and South Africa proposed. And they came out with a certain riders involved in their proposal that ensures the share of mRNA technology with the developing nations, but we don't know what the deal talks about. Before the proposal of America for the TRIPS waiver comes into effect, there will be a lot of multiple rounds of negotiations between these companies and America and World Trade Organization. But before that comes into effect, it takes more time than what we have right now in order to achieve global vaccination goals. TRIPS stand in the way of global vaccination goals. First, India, South Africa brought the proposal which everybody opposed. After some time, without any care for what India and South Africa has proposed, America, they themselves brought their own proposal as a counter proposal to what India and South Africa are suggesting. Well and good. As long as the TRIPS waiver is given up, whatever proposal goes, it is irrelevant. Our goal must be that most of the population of the world should be vaccinated, and the only way that we can do is by increasing the capacity of vaccine production. Now, when America brought the proposal, the country that opposed even the Americans' proposal was the German government. Angela Merkel has clearly said that she is not going to support the proposal either brought in by South Africa or India or even the United States, because it is not in the best interest of their pharmaceutical companies, which have poured in millions of dollars into development of the said mRNA technology. As of now, the negotiations or the concept of global cooperation in the vaccine production is at a standstill. Multiple nations, including the United Nations, Germany, America, particularly in the case of America, they are sitting on hundreds and thousands of doses of AstraZeneca vaccine, which they are unwilling to share with the world as of now. Indian government, on our part, have been engaged in active negotiations with America to gain access to the surplus stock that America is sitting on. But recently, America came out and said that they are going to support the COVAXIN initiative by sharing the surplus that they possess of AstraZeneca's vaccine now. Remember, majority of the American population has been vaccinated with 3 vaccines, Moderna, Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson. Little percent of the population, I don't think they even gave permission or the clearance for the AstraZeneca vaccine to be administered. Only field trials were allowed, nothing more. It didn't have a wide rollout as seen in the case of Pfizer vaccine or the Moderna vaccine. So America is sitting on a surplus of AstraZeneca vaccine that doesn't have the clearance to be administered to the population of United States, which they can share now. So these are the hindrances that both India faces domestically in terms of manufacturing capacity and externally as a way of access to mRNA technology, or at least have access to the other vaccine manufacturers. Moving on, center bars hotel vaccine packages. So recently a few hotels and resorts have announced that they have agreed or come into agreement with certain private hospitals to vaccinate people who are purchasing these, the so-called vaccine packages or vaccine holiday packages. Now the central government has come out heavily on this proposal of certain 2 hotels and other groups floating these, stating that both state governments and union territories must prevent such tie-ups of hotel industry or hotel resort industry with private hospitals, and they should confirm or ensure that vaccination be taken place on the prescribed guidelines from the central government or the health ministry. And this particular promotion of vaccine packages is violation of the guidelines that were brought in for the vaccination of COVID-19 pandemic. Personally, I feel if hotels and private hospitals are able to access or gain access to vaccinations, they should be given the permission to do so, because at the end of the day, this will ensure that, okay, there is a discrepancy, right? People who can afford it can get it faster than people who cannot afford it. But in order to reduce certain percentage of stress on the government, you should allow people who can gain access by way of paying their vaccine for their vaccines be allowed to be vaccinated. And the government should primarily focus on ensuring that vaccines reach people who cannot afford to pay for their own vaccines. So there is a lot of criticism as to why the government is stepping in when people are actively engaging to vaccination. But you have to understand the government perspective also. This creates certain discrepancy in the society, and this will certainly have an impact on the availability of vaccine in the market also. Moving on, monsoon onset over Kerala delayed Indian Meteorological Department. So the reason for me choosing this article is, what are the criteria that IMD rests on to declare that monsoon has arrived in India? The criteria IMD considers 3 parameters. 1, depth of westerly should be maintained up to 600 HP, that is hectopascal. That is one parameter. The second parameter is a certain degree of clouding indicated by a parameter called outgoing long wave radiation, and it should be below 2000 with square meter. That is the second parameter. The third parameter is the rain bearing westerlies at a minimum depth and speed which is at least 60% of available 14 stations in Kerala and coastal Karnataka, reporting a rainfall of 2.5 mm or more for 2 consecutive days after May 10th. If all these 3 criteria are met, then IMD says that the monsoon has set in India, particularly the southwest monsoon. Moving on to the next article, commando training, more firepower for Kaziranga Guards. Now, the Assam government has approved a proposal to increase the firepower of guards at the National Park and Tiger Reserve and provide them with commando training. Now, poaching is a big problem in our national parks, and our forest guards are not equipped and trained to deal with armed poachers who are more dangerous. This decision is bound to increase the capacity of the forest staff and the frontline staff to use modern weapons and be trained in commando tactics and guerrilla warfare so that they can protect the animals and ensure the poaching is brought down to negligible percentages. Now, these forest guards are going to be given with Indian-made Kalashnikov rifles, and they are going to be trained in Assam Police Commando Training Center near Guwahati on a regular basis. And the reason that we are discussing here is, in the past few years alone, we have been seen an increasing number of attacks or violent attacks using weapons, crude weapons or otherwise, on the forest staff who are interested with protecting our wildlife and our national parks. This move will set the tone for other national parks in other states to implement the same procedure. Right now, our forest staff are not well equipped or trained to take on armed poachers. With Assam setting the tone here or setting the trend here, it will for sure ensure other state governments take notice of our green frontline workers or green frontline warriors, and they can be equipped with better weapons, better gear and better training to counter new threats of poaching and other future threats in terms of protecting our wildlife and wild game. In addition to this, Dimeshwar Das received the Earth Heroes Award last year for his efforts in protecting the animals for 33 years. So I wanted to bring out his name also, because this might be a potential point of question for in both state services and central services. The second thing is the act that allows forest workers in Assam to protect wildlife and security to forest and the wildlife or forest produce in Assam's jungle is the Assam Forest Protection Force Act of 1986. This ensures that better protection and security of the forest is done, better security for wildlife is provided, and forest produce is also ensured in the state of Assam. Moving on to the next article, China's space station plans gather pace with cargo docking. This is in terms of, you have to know two things about understanding this article. One, US and Russia's space station agreement is going to, a space cooperation agreement is going to end in the year 2025. Russia has said that they are not going to renegotiate the agreement. Instead, Russia has decided that they are going to come up with a new agreement or partnership in terms of building their own space station in low Earth orbit with China. And part with this, China had took another step, bringing it closer to the dream of having their own space station in the orbit by sending a 2-manned space mission by the end of this year. Now they have sent a new docking of a cargo spacecraft on Sunday. This cargo spacecraft acts as an integral part of their future space station plans, and they are going to launch a third cargo docking system into the space in the next coming weeks, which will ensure that their astronauts can be housed in their own space station by this end of the year. Now, this is in plans for them having their own space station in orbit so that they can carry out their own space research or space-based research, because they want to have dominance in space domain also. As I said earlier, Russia is also considering an agreement to build or have a cooperation agreement with China to build a Russia-China space station, and Russia has also announced that they are going to withdraw from NASA's space station that they have been agreement since long. The agreement is going to come to an end in the year 2025, after which Russia is not going to renegotiate and pull out entirely. Despite whatever the rhetoric that goes into US-Russia relations, at the lowest of the point of their diplomatic relations, the only one area where the relationship between Russia and the US haven't got any damage or soured is space exploration and cooperation in space. After the initial agreement to have an international space station, probably in the history of international space station, this is the first time that Russia is pulling out and will have no participation in what US and other European nations are doing. Moving on to the next article, Israel-Egypt officials meet in bid to solidify Gaza ceasefire. We discussed a few days earlier that the ceasefire between or the ceasefire truce between Hamas militants and Israel government was negotiated by Egyptian President Sisi. Now, then we discussed that Egypt is sending a group of people to ensure that the ceasefire holds in place despite what the rhetoric that is coming out of the Hamas leadership or the Israeli leadership. Now, the Egyptian officials have met Israelis in order to ensure and solidify the Gaza ceasefire that took place after 11 days of intensive fighting between Hamas militia and Israeli security forces. Now, both Israel and Gaza had agreed to a ceasefire to be held in place, but it is very fragile. Now, Egypt has moved on to the next phase of the negotiations, where they want to make the Gaza ceasefire a permanent one and prevent an all-out war between Hamas and Israel in Gaza. So, as of now, the situation is very fragile. As of now, though situation is peaceful, it is very volatile. It doesn't take much from both of the parties, either the Hamas or the Israelis, to get back into war. But Egypt is ensuring every possible step that they are going to take in the future to ensure that peace returns to Gaza. Thank you. Stay safe. Namaste.
বৰঠাকুৰ IS একাডেমি প্ৰস্তুতি আৰু অধ্যয়নৰ নিৰ্ভৰযোগ্য ঠিকনা।
বৰঠাকুৰ IS একাডেমি।